Hi, I'm Karen Downing Ripley, and I invite you to join me on a recent, unexpected side trip to Brittany, France, during the 80th anniversary of the city of Plélo's remarkable liberation celebration, and learn why Bretons and Americans remember and honor our shared DNA of World War II. A last-minute decision to deliver my father's World War II documents to the city of Plélo, France, opened me up to an amazing experience that has truly changed my life. I ask that you join me so that you too can know and appreciate how we Americans are respected and revered because our ancestors fought to liberate the town of Plélo in August 1944. You would think it would be easy for the citizens of Plélo to find the liberators of their town. However, Plélo's battle for liberation was just a footnote in the official military records. To Hamsley and his men, this was just another day's battle. Not so for the people of Plélo. In spite of the immense difficulty tracking down the men of the 15th Cavalry, who had changed their lives forever, Pléotans were determined to find their liberators, to honor, and to thank them. As was reported in the Los Angeles Times 46 years later, during the search for Colonel Hamsley, the following research was shared. Quote, in August 1944, U.S. Army Lieutenant Robert Hamsley led a 5-tank platoon into the French village of Plélo and wiped out a contingent of heavily armed Germans. 2 days later, German anti-tank guns knocked out 4 of the 5 tanks and damaged Hamsley's own M4 before he and 3 crew members recovered. They destroyed the attack guns and killed and routed about 100 Germans. The second action earned Private Boldak the Silver Star and Double Downing a Bronze. Hamsley also received the Bronze Star and a promotion to captain. The successful attack at Plélo went practically unnoticed and was unreported in the official diaries of the 15th Cavalry Regiment of General George Patton's Third Army. But the people of Plélo never forgot. Now, 46 years later, the mayor and the village council have declared Hamsley a hero and the town's liberator. They have named him an honorary citizen or recommending that he be awarded the French Legion of Honor. Hamsley, now 71 and a winter resident of Orlando, from his home in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, is overwhelmed by the attention. He and several members will travel to Plélo in June for a celebration in his honor. If it weren't for the 5 tanks and 20 men under Hamsley, many of the village residents would have been executed in the town square by the Germans. In addition, a small force of French resistance fighters, called the Marais, were in danger of being wiped out. At the moment the American tanks rumbled into town, the German soldiers had lined up 3 people against a high wall, an elderly woman with her daughter and the village priest, to be shot as collaborators of the Marais, according to one published account. To the Germans' amazement, other residents had stepped up alongside the 3 condemned citizens. The enemy occupiers also were rounding up still more villagers. But the Germans were routed during intense firefights in the village square and at a nearby field where they were garrisoned. The American tank platoon, assisted by the Marais and some of the villagers, killed about 50 enemy soldiers and captured 60, according to the accounts. Hamsley and his tank platoon quickly left Plélo, met up with their main column the next day, and were soon engaged in the battle near Plélo that earned him the Bronze Star. Hamsley says things were moving too fast for a debriefing of his platoon's activities at Plélo. By the time a sketchy report was made, it became a footnote to ensuing battles. We just did our job. We figured it was just another day's work, Hamsley said. He never knew the full significance of the side trip to Plélo or that his platoon's cavalry charge would go down in village history until last year. Amateur historians and a retired American colonel pinpointed Hamsley as the man on the spot and researched the details of the military encounter. They pieced together eyewitness accounts and consulted military records and village archives. Colonel Robert Dwan of Tucson spends much of his time trying to get belated recognitions for deserving members of the 15th Cavalry, in which he also served as a platoon leader in France. Dwan contacted Yvonne Herve, a history buff who lives in Brittany near Plélo, and Roger Gergaud, another resident of the area, to uncover details of the battle. Herve sought out a number of the rural area's older residents, among them a former mayor of Plélo, who who was a boy of 15 and one of those scheduled for execution in the town square at the time of the German-American battle. In a 1975 French history titled The Battle of Brittany, author Jean-Joseph Barcel writes that the Americans saved the people of Plélo from death and destruction, as the Germans had put everything into place for the total destruction of the village. Jean Quereau, a member of the French resistance at the time, told a newspaper recently that we old combatants recall with our heart the American officer that had helped to save the inhabitants of Plélo from a dramatic situation. Plélo's current mayor in the 1990s wrote Hamsley last August informing him of the council's action and naming him an honorary citizen of the village. Quote, "In testimony of our gratitude for your courageous action in August 1944, which led to the village's liberation." The mayor wrote again in November to thank Hamsley for accepting their invitation to visit in June. He was overjoyed, the mayor wrote, at the idea of finally being able to welcome 46 years later the man who was our liberator. Hamsley will fly to Paris and then travel to Plélo for a celebration in his honor, unquote. In 1990, Colonel Hamsley, Delbert Downing, and Colonel Hamsley's granddaughter, Melissa Tanner, attended Plélo's liberation celebrations honoring Colonel Hamsley and his men. Hamsley was honored with France's highest medal, the Legion of Honor. Every year since the first liberation celebration, Plélo and many of the liberated villages in Brittany and throughout Europe continue to celebrate, thank, and honor the American Liberators of 1944. The overarching theme of the Plélo American Liberation is to recognize the goodwill that came with the cooperation of Americans, Allies, and the French resistance during the World War II liberation that still burns in the hearts of all descendants. Today, in a time of great polarization in our country and around the world, it is uplifting to realize that America is still remembered as liberators in World War II. We must stand tall in the shadow of our ancestors and defend the world's democracy that our ancestors fought and died for. They won. Let's get busy. It's our duty to defend democracy. Join Bert and I as we complete our scenic journey through Brittany, France on our way to Plélo to find ourselves in the middle of something we were totally unprepared for.